Part 1: The Butterfly That Shattered the Mountain. Have you ever heard of the Nova Effect? It's a story that begins with a tragedy. A boy loses his dog, and what follows is a chain of events so unpredictable and convoluted that it forces us to question everything we know about fate, control, and meaning. You're not just watching a video today, you're entering a portal, an unraveling of how we perceive destiny, and how what we call bad or good might be nothing more than masks of deeper mysteries. We are going to deconstruct destiny, not to destroy it, but to understand its mechanics. Because once you understand what the Nova Effect truly is, you'll never look at misfortune, luck, or even your own suffering the same way again. Let's begin with a question that strikes at the core of your being. What if you've never actually known what's good or bad for you? What if your entire life has been a sequence of mistaken judgments because you were trying to evaluate infinite consequences from a finite point in time? The Nova Effect is the idea that a single event, no matter how tragic or fortunate it appears, can set off a cascade of unforeseeable outcomes, making it impossible to judge whether it was truly beneficial or harmful. It's based on chaos theory, yes, but also on ancient Taoist wisdom, like the story of the old man who lost his horse. When others told him it was unfortunate, he simply replied, maybe. That maybe is the seed of wisdom. Man suffers only because he takes seriously what the gods made for fun, said Alan Watts. And perhaps destiny, in its most cryptic form, is a cosmic comedy, one where we take the stage too seriously, forgetting that the script is being written in real time through a million interwoven threads, not one of which we control entirely. You see, suffering doesn't come from pain, it comes from meaning. We attach meaning to experiences, outcomes, and expectations, and that meaning becomes a prison. But what if you could become the observer of your own fate rather than its victim? What if you could learn to see beyond the immediate, the obvious, and the emotional? Let's go deeper. Imagine your life as a vast web. Every decision you make sends vibrations down countless paths, some of which you'll never see. You get fired from a job that's a tragedy. Or is it? Because 2 weeks later, you're forced to take a different path, and that path leads you to an experience that breaks you, reshapes you, and gives you a kind of strength that no success ever could. You meet someone in a coffee shop because you missed your bus, and years later, that person becomes your life partner. Was missing the bus a misfortune, or was it destiny's sleight of hand? We can't know. And that's the power of the Nova Effect. It humbles the mind and liberates the soul.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But the Nova Effect challenges us to go even further, to live not just with a why, but with the wisdom to know that the why itself will evolve. Most people live in fear because they're attached to outcomes. They think if they can just control the next 5 moves, they'll be safe. But life is not chess. It's jazz. It's improvisational. Every note you play is in relationship to the last one, and the beauty lies in how you adapt, not how you control. Let me ask you something. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you was actually the beginning of your awakening? Sit with that. Not as a cliche, not as a comfort, but as a radical reframe of your entire narrative. Look back on your life, trace the pain, or follow the echoes, Didn't some of your deepest sufferings lead to new strength, new vision, or even new love? We're not saying suffering is good. We're saying it's beyond good and bad. It's catalytic. And this is where psychology meets philosophy. Carl Jung said, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." Your unconscious mind is constantly trying to make sense of what seems senseless. But when you start to embrace the Nova effect, you begin to trust the process more than the product. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this waking me up to?" That's the shift from victimhood to agency, from reaction to awareness. Let's now visualize a moment. You're standing on a cliff. Below is the ocean of your life, waves of memories, traumas, dreams, failures. Behind you is everything you've known. In front of you, fog, uncertainty, the unknown. And the only way forward is to take a step. Not because you know what's ahead, but because you trust that whatever lies beyond will shape you in ways you can't yet comprehend. The Nova effect invites you to step forward without demanding guarantees. Because certainty is a prison, and mystery is freedom. Here's something most people don't realize. Destiny is not a fixed path. It's a feedback loop. Your choices influence it, but so do your interpretations. You can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose how you perceive it, how you respond, and how you evolve. That's where your power lies, not in prediction, but in perception. What if the real purpose of life is not to get what you want, but to become someone who can dance with all of it, the joy, the loss, the surprises, the silence? The Stoics had a term, Amor, Fati, love of fate, resignation, not passivity, but a fierce embrace of everything life brings. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's the Nova effect in action. The very thing you think is breaking you might be building you. The door that slammed shut could be redirecting you to a path so magnificent that your current self couldn't even imagine it. But to truly embrace this, you must let go of the illusion of linear growth. Life doesn't move in straight lines. It spirals. It circles back. It drops you into chaos, only to lift you into clarity. You think you're regressing, but you're actually being reforged. The fire isn't punishment, it's purification. And here's the paradox: the more you surrender to this truth, the more power you gain, not over life, but within yourself. Let's pause here and ask another question, one that could change the way you live forever. If you stopped labeling events as good or bad, how much lighter would you feel? How much freer would you be? This isn't about indifference. It's about transcendence. It's about rising above the binary of fortune and misfortune and stepping into the vastness of what is. Because once you do, you stop chasing destiny and you start co-creating it. There's a deeper layer still. The Nova effect doesn't just apply to individuals. It applies to civilizations, to societies. Think of the great collapses in history, the fall of Rome, the plagues, the wars. And yet, from those ashes rose new orders, revolutions in thought, art, and spirit. Destruction and creation are not opposites. They are dance partners, and the same is true in your own life. That breakup, that breakdown, That burnout? It's not the end. It's the threshold. Remember this. A nova is a star that explodes not to die, but to shine brighter. In the mythology of your life, perhaps the chaos isn't a curse. Perhaps it's your ignition, your initiation, your unveiling. And maybe, just maybe, destiny isn't something written in the stars, but something that reveals itself only when you're brave enough to walk through fire without needing to know what's on the other side. Part 2, the map that writes itself. Now that we've plunged into the mystery of the nova effect and began to question how we judge events as good or bad, we must go even deeper. There's something most people never realize. Destiny isn't a story you follow. It's a story you write as you're reading it. The paradox is this: you are both the author and the character, both the sculptor and the clay. And life. Life is the chisel. Every moment of disruption, pain, or surprise is not a detour from your path, it is the path. But how do we live like this, practically? How do we maintain faith in the invisible architecture of our lives when the floor beneath us collapses? Let's begin with a truth that's hard to swallow. Control is an illusion. You don't control the weather. You don't control what other people think or do. You don't even control your next thought. It arises on its own. So why do we try to control life, as if we're the engineer of some predictable train route? The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, said Seneca. You are preparing to live, and yet you never actually live. We prepare, we plan, we hope, but life doesn't honor our blueprints. It honors our presence and our adaptability. The nova effect demands that we let go of control without letting go of agency. You see, there's a difference between choice and control. You may not control what happens, but you always have a choice in how you meet it. That's where your power is born. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the horrors of Auschwitz, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given circumstances." That's not just inspirational, it's transformational. It means that even when chaos rains down, you can meet it with dignity, curiosity, and even love. That's not weakness. That's the ultimate strength. Here's a question that can shatter your assumptions. What if your life is not meant to make sense in the moment? What if meaning is something that arrives only when you stop demanding it? We're so addicted to clarity. We want answers, reasons, closure. But meaning often comes after the storm, not during it. It's retrospective. You look back and suddenly everything connects. The heartbreak taught you compassion. The failure gave you grit. The silence taught you to listen. But in the moment, all you felt was lost. This is why trust is not a luxury, it's a discipline. Trusting the nova effect means living with the humility that you don't know what today's pain is preparing you for. It means holding space for mystery without collapsing into despair. And it means honoring your own evolution, even when you can't see where it's leading. There's a quote by Rainer Maria Rilke: "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves." That's the posture of someone who understands that destiny doesn't come with instructions, it comes with invitations. Let's talk about resistance. Every time something unexpected happens, the first instinct is to resist, to push it away, to label it wrong. But what if resistance is the real enemy, not the event itself? Think about it. Most of your suffering doesn't come from what happened, it comes from your refusal to accept that it happened. You spiral in the stories, this shouldn't be happening. This isn't fair. I didn't deserve this. And yet, the moment you stop resisting and start responding, everything begins to shift. You become fluid, adaptable, alive. We can see this principle everywhere in nature, especially. Trees don't resist the wind. They bend. Rivers don't try to break the rocks. They flow around them. The Tao Te Ching says, the softest things in the world overcome the hardest. That's not just poetic, it's practical psychology. When you become soft, open, and responsive, you stop being broken by life and start being reshaped. That's the paradox of power. It often looks like surrender. But it's not giving up. It's giving in to something greater. Let's bring this into the realm of identity. Because the Nova effect doesn't just challenge your beliefs, it challenges who you think you are. When something shatters your life, loss, illness, betrayal, it also shatters the self you were attached to. And that's terrifying, but also liberating. Because most of us are living inside a self that was constructed by fear, trauma, and societal programming. When that self is dismantled, you finally get to rebuild from truth, not from survival. Who are you without your job title? Without your relationships? Without your achievements? These questions aren't meant to strip you down, they're meant to set you free. Because destiny isn't about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you really are beneath the noise, beneath the scripts. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience, said Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And often, it's the breakdowns that remind us of that. Now let's examine a strange but powerful idea. What if you could learn to love the unknown? Not tolerate it, not survive it, but actually fall in love with it. Imagine waking up every day, not needing to know how things will turn out, but trusting that whatever comes will serve your growth. Imagine seeing uncertainty not as a threat, but as a playground. That's what children do. They don't need everything explained. They explore. They touch. They wonder. That's what the Nova effect asks of us, not to master life, but to marvel at it. This is where the psychological meets the mystical. Because when we truly embrace the unknown, something mysterious happens. We start to feel guided. We notice synchronicities, those strange coincidences that feel too precise to be random. A book shows up just when you need it. A person crosses your path at the perfect moment. You have a dream that answers a question you didn't even know you were asking. Carl Jung called this meaningful coincidence. It's as if life itself is participating in your unfolding. But here's the secret: those synchronicities were always there. You just weren't attuned to them. The Nova effect doesn't create magic, it reveals it. And the more you trust the process, the more the process begins to reflect that trust back to you. It's like holding up a mirror to the universe and realizing it was always holding one up to you. Let's return to something practical: decision-making. How do you make decisions in a world where outcomes are unpredictable? You stop trying to predict. Instead, you start listening to your intuition, to your body, to the subtle nudges of your soul. You ask not, what will give me the best result, but what feels most aligned with who I am becoming. That's a radical shift. It means letting go of external metrics and embracing internal integrity. It means living from the inside out. Here's a final question to sit with. Are you willing to live a life that makes no sense to others, but total sense to your soul? Because if you are, you'll unlock a power most people never touch. You'll stop living reactively and start living creatively. You'll stop fearing detours and start seeing them as divine redirections. You'll stop needing to know and start needing to be. Remember, a nova is not a gentle change. It's an explosion. It's violent. It's disorienting. But it creates space for something new to shine. And maybe your life, too, is meant to explode not into chaos, but into clarity. Not into destruction, but into deeper design. Maybe what looks like the end is just the beginning of a you that was always waiting to be born. Part 3, Dancing with the Unknown Flame. We've now walked through the fire of uncertainty, embraced the paradoxes of fate, and glimpsed the hidden intelligence of disruption. But to truly grasp the nova effect's true power, we must face the final and most uncomfortable truth. You are not here to control your destiny. You are here to become conscious within it. That's not passivity. That's participation. And once you begin to live as a co-creator, not a controller, everything changes. Your decisions, your emotions, even your suffering begins to take on a holy shape. Let's begin with the most dangerous illusion, that life is linear. That things are supposed to build neatly upward: school, job, love, success, happiness. But real growth, real transformation is not linear. It's cyclical, spiral-like. Like a planet orbiting a sun, you return to the same lessons again and again, each time with deeper awareness. And each time, you are not the same person who faced it before. That is the nature of true evolution. No man ever steps in the same river twice, said Heraclitus, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man. So when life brings you back to pain you thought you'd already healed, don't ask, why again? Instead ask, what layer is life asking me to peel back now? The nova effect teaches us that every return is not a regression, it's a realignment, a remembering, a re-seeing. The soul does not grow through comfort. It expands through confrontation with the unknown, with the unexpected, with the unloved parts of ourselves. And that confrontation is sacred. Let's talk about fear. Fear is the currency of the ego. It thrives on predictability, on control, on familiar patterns. But the nova effect terrifies the ego because it exposes the fragile illusion of control. So we resist, we cling, we strategize. But here's the truth. The ego is not designed to navigate destiny. The soul is. The ego wants logic, proof, guarantees. The soul lives in poetry, symbols, and synchronicity. The ego wants to survive. The soul wants to expand. And expansion always involves some kind of death of identity, of certainty, of the old self. So the question becomes, are you willing to let parts of yourself die so something deeper can be born? Most people are not. They want transformation without loss, awakening without grief. But that's not how this works. The caterpillar must dissolve into goop before it becomes a butterfly, not rearrange its legs, not tweak its wings, dissolve. That's what life is asking you to do when it disrupts your plans. Dissolve the identity that was too small for your potential. Dissolve the dreams that were rooted in fear. Dissolve the life you built when you were still asleep. And in that dissolution, something magnificent happens. You begin to see that destiny is not a destination, it's a dialogue. Life speaks in patterns. It whispers through delays, detours, losses. It's not punishing you. It's responding to you. The Nova effect doesn't just scatter events randomly, it reflects your inner state like a cosmic mirror. When you live in fear, life gives you more to fear. But when you begin to live from alignment, from presence, from trust, life begins to flow. Not smoothly, but truthfully. At this stage, we must ask a deeper question. If the universe is intelligent, then what is it trying to teach you through your chaos? This isn't spiritual bypassing, it's spiritual decoding. Your heartbreak may be teaching you self-worth. Your illness may be teaching you to slow down and listen. Your failure may be redirecting you to your real mission. But you'll only see the message if you stop resisting the messenger. You'll only receive the gift if you stop cursing the wrapping. Let's explore the idea of soul curriculum. Imagine that before you were born, your soul chose a set of experiences, not just the joyful ones, but the painful ones too, that would forge your essence. And now, as you live them, your job is not just to endure them, but to extract their wisdom, to evolve, to awaken. This is not fate as a trap, it's fate as a forge. And the Nova effect is the fire that tempers your spirit. In psychological terms, this is the integration of shadow. Carl Jung famously said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." The Nova effect often sends us into our shadow not to punish us, but to force the integration of what we've abandoned. The breakup that shows you your codependency. The job loss that reveals your worth was tied to productivity. The betrayal that exposes your lack of boundaries. These aren't random attacks. They're deep curriculum. And here's where things get mystical again. Because the more you integrate your shadow, the less life needs to scream at you. The more you listen to subtle cues, the less you need chaos to wake you up. That's the hidden grace of the Nova effect. It's a teacher, a trickster, a kind of spiritual jester, tipping over your neat little life to reveal its hollowness. And if you stop seeing it as an enemy and start seeing it as an initiator, you become powerful in a way no institution, no system, no title could ever give you. Let's get practical now. How do you live this truth daily? 2 free ways. Radical presence. Stop rushing to conclusions. Stop labeling experiences. Live in the maybe. Let each moment unfold without needing it to be anything other than what it is. That's where wisdom lives. Embodied trust. Trust not as a thought, but as a felt sense in the body. Breathe into uncertainty. Practice stillness. When fear rises, don't run, listen. Ask, what is this moment asking me to become? Creative response, don't react. Create, respond intentionally. Life hands you a plot twist? Don't scream write the next scene. Make art from your ashes. Make meaning from your mess. That's power. Now, the final question, the one that lives at the heart of all spiritual and psychological awakening. If you knew that every single thing in your life, especially the painful parts, were perfectly designed to awaken you, would you still resist them? Or would you bow to them like sacred teachers? That bow is not submission, it's transcendence. That's the real magic of the Nova effect. It doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes you. And that, ultimately, is the true power of destiny. Not that it gives you what you want, but that it gives you what you need to become who you truly are. Destiny is not written in the stars. It is written in your choices, your perception, your surrender, and your willingness to let life break you open again and again until all that remains is truth, love, and consciousness. So when life burns, don't ask, why me? Ask, what is this fire trying to forge in me? Don't curse the chaos. Dance with it. Don't chase clarity. Trust mystery. Because the Nova effect is not chaos. It's choreography. And your soul knows the steps even if your mind does not.